Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Insider's Guide to Agile at Scale webinar series. This is our final part of a three-part series. We're going to look at cross-functional teams and applying Agile up and down. For today, my name is Elman Bala, and I am a VP of Product here at Blueprint Software Systems. And also joining me is Chris Castle, also a part of the team.
Hey, everyone.
All right, so just a few ground rules. So we're going to present for about 20 minutes or so, and then at the end, we've collated some common questions around the topic that we can go ahead and answer. All right, so why don't I hand it over to Chris to get started.
Hey, everyone. One of the things I think before even talking about scaling up or scaling down Agile, I think it's really important to do some work in understanding your organization and how to best align your organization, your IT efforts to your organization. And the best way to do that is to go through a value stream mapping exercise, which basically means looking at the point a customer requests one of your products or services, all the internal steps, all the external steps that have to happen in order to fulfill that customer request. Customer, you can use it in the broadest sense. It can be a customer spending money with your organization, or it can be an internal customer that needs services delivered to them to run their department or do their job. Once you've done that, then the next step is to figure out what systems and processes, and in IT, we're looking at what systems support each step in the values map. And then from there, you can use that to figure out how to organize your teams. So their teams end up being better aligned with the business, they end up being aligned to value, and it makes it much easier to figure out what they should be doing, how they should be delivering, and make sure everything is lined up to deliver maximum value aligned with the goals of the business.
Yeah, I would just also add, you want to also deliver value in the shortest sustainable lead time. And so one of the frameworks that really supports this concept well, is the SAFE framework. And so they leverage their value streams that you define to organize value, but also define things called Agile release trains, or ARTs as they call them, to coordinate that delivery as well. So it's really designed to align to stakeholders and really manage cross dependencies across the organization in developing value to your customer base.
Cool. So let's talk a little bit about team organization. So once you've done your value stream mapping exercise, and you've kind of aligned where you'd like your teams to be organized, it's time to start forming those teams. Each individual team should be made up of about 8 to 10 people, plus or minus 2, and then organized into a higher level team, which maxes out at about 10 individual Scrum teams. This team of teams is in SAFE what they refer to as an ART or an Agile release train. Each of the teams should be self-organizing and self-reliant. This means making them really cross-functional. They should be able to do everything from user story elaboration, design work, implementation design, testing, prioritization, all of that stuff. You really want your teams to be able to take a feature or an epic, own it, deliver it, and without having to rely on cross dependencies, other teams to deliver things. It'll make the workflow across the system much faster. At a minimum, instead of just developers, we recommend that you have a product owner on the team representing the business, who's always available to the team to answer those questions, and a team leader, Scrum Master, to make sure everything's on track and someone to remove any impediments to the team reaching their goals.
Yeah, I'd also add to add to the teams, we've also seen success with our customer base in terms of making sure that from a operational perspective, you have that DevOps expertise on those teams as well. And what that means is that not only are you producing quality code, but you're able to deploy to production-like environments, whether or not they're actually to live production environments. You can debate, but you can also support deploying to internal production-like environments so that you're always producing code that is ready to be handed off to the customer base without any need to figure out, deployment or any testing needs and that kind of thing.
One more point on team organization is, in my experience and what we see here at Blueprint, and this really depends on your context, but having teams organized what we would call feature teams around the delivery of something that a customer can use, as opposed to functional teams are organized around technology or back end, front end, database. We find sort of full cross-functional feature teams to be the most effective way to deliver in an agile environment. You think that?
Yeah, teams should also understand the context of how and why each capability. You do have that product owner role on the team, and so they'll help to give that context. But it also helps to give kind of context in terms of the assets being created. And we recommend using graphical models such as visual UX walkthroughs, UI mockups, business process models to help collaborate amongst the team. So they're really understanding the context of what they're building and why they're building it.
Yeah, and I think maybe one final point, and this kind of helps teams maintain that context and understanding what they're doing. Your team should be long lasting, so they can gain an expertise of working together, working on the products together. They shouldn't be spun up on a project by project basis. They should be, working together. The core team should be working together for, presumably years.
Okay, great. Let's move on to the next slide of how to scale upstream.
So once you have your teams organized, I think the first step is to organize at that program level. And what that really means is putting in a structure, practices, and support to manage coordination across teams. There basically needs to be a group of people in your organization who are managing at that team of teams level to make sure dependencies are being dealt with. You're not creating extra overhead or onerous processes. And then most importantly, everyone is working on the same cadence. So that means the same release cycle, the same iteration cycle, the same deployment schedules, and everybody's working to a common set of goals and making sure, again, everything is aligned.
Next, you want to make sure you're organizing at a portfolio level. So transitioning a traditional PMO office to a lean agile portfolio managed department is often one of the most challenging parts of any agile transformation. So asking an organization that is built on things like stage, gate, milestones, formal change requests, and really big happy practices to convert to an agile or lean way of working is quite a big instrumental change for them. However, putting the effort into making this change is well worth the effort. Information will flow downstream much more easily, and what the enterprise is delivering will align much more closely with what your customer values. And I would also say that many of the same techniques used at the team level can also be applied to the portfolio level. So you can use the same lean principles. For example, using a Kanban board at the portfolio level is a powerful way to organize information. And I'd say the biggest switch would be the switch from a product funding model to a values funding model. So as we went through a couple slides ago, once you define those value streams, you'll want to actually put together funding of those individual projects in that way. And in Agile at Scale, you want to fund not only the value stream, but then also prioritize new features and initiatives within that value stream.
Great. Let's talk about maybe some of the best practices to help accelerate your Agile transition. The first one, I think we've discussed quite a bit, and I think hopefully everybody understands how strongly we feel about this blueprint. The first step is really to define your value streams. This is the best way to make sure your IT teams are aligned to your organizational goals. Using a common set of tools is another best practice. So making sure all your teams and your team of teams are using a common set of tools to make sure the work is flowing properly across it. And most importantly, to make sure everyone has visibility to what's going on from, right from your management level. They can look in the same tools as right down to the individual developer to really get a sense of what's happening in the organization, where you are, what your product backlogs are, and you're not having people requesting information all the time from each other. It's something they can go and grab and see at any time. One of the key things we find too is making sure that all your tools are integrated. So that information again is flowing across your whole SDLC. So taking an application like Storyteller and making sure it's integrated with a work management tool. So the work you're doing in one tool flows into the other tool, and information is being updated in real time. It's an incredible waste of time to do things like double entering in two systems or upload spreadsheets across systems. That integration is key to making sure you have an effective and efficient organization. Use systems thinking to improve the overall flow of work. So one of the key Agile principles at scale is if you optimize locally, all you're going to do is create another bottleneck somewhere else. So when you're making those improvements, make sure you're looking across your whole set of activities and see how you can make the improvements systematically across instead of small, tiny improvements that are just going to move your bottleneck along. Something else we talked about earlier on this webinar is have everybody operate on the same cadence. It sounds obvious, but we see many organizations that are running different products or projects or different teams operating on different cycles, and the coordination and the handoff is so problematic. It wastes so much time, that level of coordination. If you know everybody's on the same schedule, that's just an issue you don't have to deal with. And again, it's all about keeping that work flowing through the system. And finally, really work on trying to build a culture of continuous improvement. So this to me, this means a couple of different things. This means not having a culture of blame, where if things don't go quite right, you're looking to blame people or departments instead of ask how can we avoid this next time? What can we do to make this better? I think your people are doing the best they can within the systems that you provide for them. So it's really about improving the system to make it better. Also allow your teams to have the freedom to self-reflect on the work they're doing. And this is at all levels, whether it's at the portfolio, program, or individual team level, and allocate some capacity to actually make those changes, whether it's something like improving your build environment or changing the template you use to get approval for a big initiative to make it flow through. always look for ways that you continuously improve and make sure that you build in the time to allow those improvements to happen, so you can reap the benefits of improving your efficiency, your alignment to business goals over time.
Yeah, I'd also add that you want to build a culture and environment of continuous learning. And so you want to make it okay for employees to feel like they can fail fast as long as they're learning and you're putting in the instrumentation or effects to make sure that you're not making those mistakes again. So that can include things like, um, retrospectives or instrumenting new and improved processes. You just want to make sure that you're being supportive of your entire team, and so they feel like that when they're going and deploying new software to customers, that they feel like they can do so without a dark cloud hanging over their head.
So we have a few questions. So, Amin, how would you say Storyteller assists with applying Agile up and downstream?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think Storyteller helps with that business IT alignment first and foremost. We add capabilities through visualizations, modeling, providing a centralized repository that acts like a system of truth for your entire SDLC, and really deep ingrained what we call high fidelity traceability from your strategic business initiatives down to the development tasks and testing and operations that are being undergone. And that helps to enable compliance as well. We really wrap compliance and things like business rules and non-functional requirements because they need to be pertained to in consideration of constraints being put on anything being produced by IT. We also support audits and measurable success against goals. So we have quite rich analytics capabilities. We help to mitigate risk with content accelerators focused around regulatory and compliance, as well as things like non-functionals and reuse of those requirements. And that really assist with compliance, audit, and approvals. We also assist with improving quality and efficiency through the generation of downstream assets, things like user story tests. What we've seen from a lot of customers that are undergoing transformation to Agile is that there's often folks that are changing into new roles, going from being business analysts to product owners. And that adjustment is quite difficult. And what they used to produce in terms of that business requirements document, there's no real equivalent to that in the Agile world. And they don't really have familiarity with producing quality user stories. And Storyteller really helps to provide that through a modeling front end that produces quality assets on the back end. We also enable cross-team collaboration with Storyteller, so really a forum for all your stakeholders across the organization to come and contribute on work being completed by IT. We provide a workflow and orchestration engine to help efficiently pass on tasks from team to team or from member to member, and a really great and thorough review and approval process to accelerate delivery and then maintain a historical record for corporate knowledge. We efficiently manage backlogs, sprints, and releases and help to align them to product initiatives and that definition that you're creating for your development teams.
All right, so I think that wraps it up for our series on scaling Agile. I hope everyone found it informational and useful. Feel free to contact us at marketing.events@blueprintsys.com. Thanks everyone for listening.